There is a lot of talk about the legalization of marijuana in the news with the recent election of the Liberal government. But why are we even talking about it? Why is this causing debates? In 1923, Canada prohibited the use of marijuana with no valid reason as to why, and this has led to approximately 71,600 criminal offenses that occur each year, with 70% of the cases caused by possession. This has costed the government an estimated $700 million to $1 billion in law enforcement annually. To put into perspective, police deal with the possession of marijuana incident every 9 minutes. Many argue that the criminal sentences in place are exaggerated and lead to long-term mental health and social implications for those incarcerated. This includes job loss from having a criminal record, and this leads to homelessness and difficulty integrating back into society. As early as 1972, formal recommendations to decriminalize marijuana have been suggested but repeatedly dismissed. And since the early 2000s, having marijuana is illegal unless it is prescribed by a doctor who thinks it would be beneficial to the patient. In 2014, Canada led industrialized countries in marijuana use, indicating that prohibition has not helped to stop its use in Canadians, with youth being our primary concern. And I'll tell you why. In this chart from a report by UNICEF, you can see that the amount of youth that have used marijuana in the last 12 months ranks the highest compared to other developed countries. According to Statistics Canada, 22% of youth and 26% of young adults used marijuana, which is more than 2.5 times that of adults 25 and older. If Canada does not address the legalization of marijuana, enforcement costs will stay the same, causing the government to continue to spend taxpayer dollars, and youth will continue to have easy access to unregulated sources, which would jeopardize healthy brain development. And this is bad. Some of marijuana's medical uses include reducing seizures, inflammation, and anxiety, as well as stimulating appetite. And like alcohol, marijuana is also popular for use recreationally. Therefore, we believe citizens should have the right to have access to regulated and quality-controlled marijuana for medical and recreational uses. When looking at this survey done in 2012, we see that the support from the public for legalizing marijuana is high across Canada. A majority of Canadians support the legalization of marijuana and describe the war on drugs as a failure. However, we also recognize the undesirable side effects of chronic marijuana use, such as increased anxiety and impaired reaction time and judgment, so we must create public health initiatives to reduce the abuse of this drug. Now is the time for policymakers to take action. So, what can we do to reduce use if marijuana is legalized? We take regulatory measures. This would include monitoring quality control and regulating the amount that an individual can purchase by enforcing a license policy in every section of the supply chain. The licensing approach follows laws used in tobacco and alcohol use and limitations set in the legalization of marijuana in other places, such as Washington and Colorado. Using a similar approach to the Canadian system for alcohol licensing, where the provincial government has control over its distribution and sales, we can implement this on a national level to unify marijuana licensing across Canada. We recommend limiting marketing of marijuana, prohibiting the distribution of licenses to outlets that are within 1,000 feet of a place where children may gather, and putting a cap of 1 ounce on the amount that can be purchased at a time by each legal user over the age of 21. These limitations will prevent marijuana's potential to reach minors while reducing secondhand smoke exposure and the perception that smoking marijuana is socially acceptable. We, along with recent research, conclude that a national integrated approach to marijuana legalization is the overall healthiest option for Canadians because there are economical and societal benefits to this reform. Legalizing marijuana is an opportunity to redirect those savings from law enforcement and tax on purchases towards creating and improving health and social services to help individuals with marijuana-related crimes reintegrate back into their community. If you want evidence of how legalizing marijuana can actually improve society in the long term, look at the harm reduction approach undertaken by the Portuguese drug reform that was started in 2001. Don't get us wrong, we're not trying to say that we want to decriminalize all drugs, but applying this to legalizing marijuana in Canada can be beneficial. Prohibition has been proven ineffective as it is associated with financial, social, and health-related costs, so why don't we try to legalize marijuana instead? Our approach, which includes government monopoly on sales, a minimum age requirement, increased access to improved treatment options, and limiting marketing, are congruent with the Center for Addiction and Mental Health's 10 basic principles to guide regulation of legal marijuana use. Eventually, the rest of these recommendations should be implemented. This would be our solution to this wicked problem to manage marijuana use in Canada. If alcohol and tobacco are legal, then why is marijuana still illegal? Remember, this is your country, your future, and ultimately your choice. Learn the facts.